What is up, everyone? It is Balar. Today, I want to talk about alternative pathing for a league start slash qualifier run scenario where you're trying to do all the skill points as you go through and be as quick as possible about it. So, the problem that I'm trying to address with this alternative pathing is there's a bit of an awkward point in late Act 1 and sort of Act 2. So the first problem starts with Fairgraves. Fairgraves can take a while to do. The ship graveyard cave layout is not easy to navigate. And generally speaking, you can get lost pretty easily, and there's a lot of sort of navigation and pathing you have to do. Beyond that, there is a second problem in Act 2, which is that the way forward quest, where you sort of unlock the passage in Western Forest, is awkward because it sends you back to Act 1 from Act 2 to get that skill point. So the pathing that I am going to suggest sort of solves both these problems in a different way. So to begin, we'll talk about sort of the standard pathing that people use right now. Most people, what they'll do on a league start or race qualifier scenario, they'll come to ship graveyard and they'll do the Fairgraves quest. So they'll look for cave wherever it may be, right? They'll find it, they'll go do it, get the all flame, and then they'll come and to the Cavern of Wrath, get this waypoint. They'll go back to ship graveyard to try and find Fairgraves' location, right? It's right here. Kill Fairgraves, and then they'll go back to town. Vendor, get the 12 skill gem that you get from getting the Cavern of Wrath from Nessa, and they'll get the skill point. So instead of doing that, what you're going to do in the alternative pathing is you are just going to straight up skip Fairgraves. You're going to try and look for the cave so you know where it is. You want to make sure you get this waypoint and this waypoint, because depending on your layout, the ship graveyard cave will be closer to one or the other, and you want to remember that. Okay, so next, in the sort of alternative pathing, like I said, you'll skip this, you'll just go straight on, and you'll kill Merveil. You will not go back to town here once you get to Cavern. You'll get this waypoint, but you'll continue on, and you'll kill Merveil. Once you get to Act 2, you'll do sort of the traditional pathing that happens at first, which is you'll go to Old Fields, you'll try and find the den, you'll put a portal near the entrance, you'll then go to Crossroads, take the waypoint from Crossroads back to town, go into your portal, go into the den, kill the Great White Beast, come back to town, through a log out, and then you'll get a Quicksilver Flask. From there, you'll do Chamber of Sins, and then you'll go to Western Forest and kill Weaver. So the way the alternative pathing is a little different is you start off the same way, where you'll go to Old Fields, put a portal outside Den, go to Crossroads, you'll log out, or you'll waypoint back to town, go through the portal, go into Den, kill the Great White Beast, log out, come back to town, and you'll get your Quicksilver Flask. So you'll have 2 Quicksilver Flasks at this point. What you want to do now, instead of going to Chamber of Sins, we are actually going to go to the Riverways, and as we go through, all we're trying to do is, XP, collect some waypoints along the way. We're heading to Western Forest, and so at this point, typically you'll be 12 or 13, and by the time you're done with this zone, you might be 13, 14, depending. You'll get to Western Forest, and what we're going to do in Western Forest is we're going to just straight book it down the road, collect the waypoint, and then go all the way down this way to open up the passage by killing the dude, getting the stone item, and whatever. From here, we'll log out, we'll enter Act 2 again, and then we will go to the waypoint, we'll click on Act 1, and we'll go to either Ship Graveyard or Merveil's Cavern, depending on where the cave was closer to. So in this case, I'm just going to go to Ship Graveyard, and then I will run and do the Fairgraves quest right now. So as I go through Ship Graveyard's cave, one of the critical things is we want to make sure we have a portal scroll, so we can drop a portal once we find the All Flame here, right? So in this case, I'll just use a portal, go back to town, And the reason why it's important to use the portal is so when we log out after killing Fairgraves, we end up in Act 1 instead of Act 2. So we'll kill Fairgraves, boom, log out, go back to Act 1 town. We'll talk to Bestel to get our 2 skill points from Fairgraves and the way forward. We'll talk to Nessa to get our 12 skill gem. And at this point, we'll go back to Act 2 and we'll do sort of the traditional pathing where we go to Chamber of Sins, get the Baleful Gem, and then we'll waypoint to Western Forest, kill Weaver, and then however you want to do the bandits after that, it is up to you. So some of the advantages of using this alternate pathing is by getting the second Quicksilver, we can help sort of reduce the variance of how long it takes to get through Ship Graveyard Cave because we're able to move through faster. The other thing that it helps us do is it helps us avoid 2 awkward town trips. Where sort of at the end of Act 1, like that vendor is a little bit unnecessary because you don't have a ton of items at that point after killing Brutus, right? Or upon entering Ship Graveyard, because you should have just vendored everything after killing Brutus. So you would have only had 1 zone or 2 zones, Prisoner's Gate and Ship Graveyard, to collect items again, which you shouldn't be looting that much, so you shouldn't have a full inventory. Right, and the other thing that it allows us to do is it allows us to avoid going back to Act 1 again in an awkward spot in Act 2. So it just sort of saves us 1 town trip, and it allows us to get an additional skill point a lot earlier than we normally would. This can be beneficial if you have a build that has a lot of MS options on the tree that you get access to, or cooldown recovery for movement skills. So having those earlier points can help you navigate the rest of Act 2 a lot easier. The other thing that this pathing does is it actually allows us to still benefit from XPing at Fairgraves, because by the time we enter Riverways, right, we're 12 or 13. By the time we're entering Western Forest, we're 13 or 14. And so when we go back to Ship Graveyard, right, Ship Graveyard Cave is level 12, so we still get full XP from there. And then if we're level 14, right, we'll be at sort of the max end of the XP range. We still get 100% XP for the zone, and so we'll be able to get full XP from the Fairgraves event itself, which is actually a substantial amount of XP. Usually it's like 6 or 7 bars. I can't remember precisely what it is, but in any event, the whole point of this pathing is just to allow you to be a little more concise with your town trips. So this pathing is not always going to be the most ideal thing to do. I like doing it, and I find it to be faster than the traditional pathing of just randomly going back to Act 1 and Act 2 at some point. And the use cases where I would not use sort of the pathing that I suggested, the alternative pathing, would be the following. If you drop a second Quicksilver early in Act 1, just go ahead and do Fairgraves, right? Because part of the reason, or part of the benefit of doing the alternative strategy is the second Quicksilver to help you navigate the Fairgraves Cave a lot faster. You get the second Quicksilver early, just go ahead and do Fairgraves, right? Number 2, your level 12 gem is essential to whatever build you're playing. If that's the case, once you get to Merveil, the Cavern of Wrath, you should just go back and get it after killing Fairgraves, right? Number 3 is if you're slow. If, it takes you a while to do stuff, that's not going to be so great, because what's going to happen is your Ship Graveyard layout is going to reset and you're not going to know where the cave is. Part of the benefit of this strategy is doing stuff quick enough to know where the cave is still. So we can sort of avoid the awkward position of trying to look for it. Yes, there is some backtracking involved in this method, but it is a hell of a lot less than what it would otherwise be if, for whatever reason, your zone reset. Okay? The fourth scenario where I would not use this strat is if you need to go back to town to vendor stuff, right? Or you need to buy something from town. So as a example, or from some preparation or race stuff that I've been doing recently. I had a run that I was playing on a Templar where I was entering Ship Graveyard with only a small mana flask as my only mana flask and no portals. There was no way to make that one small mana flask work on Merveil with a build that I was using, so I needed to go back to town to either buy portals or to get a mana flask. So, with that being said, I encourage you guys to try this out, see how it goes, see if it's something that benefits you. And again, sort of the alternative pathing is, you enter Ship Graveyard, you skip Fairgraves, go to Merveil Caverns, get the waypoint there, go straight on to killing Merveil without going to town. Once you go into Act 2, you do the sort of traditional stuff where you get the Quicksilver at the Great White Beast and Den. And then instead of going to Chamber of Sins immediately, you'll go left to get the way forward stuff. Once you get the way forward opened, you'll log out, go to Act 2 town, right? And you'll go to Ship Graveyard or Merveil's Cavern, and you'll do Fairgraves. And then at the All Flame, you want a portal. So when you log out after killing Fairgraves, you'll end up in Act 1. Try it out. Let me know what you think. All right, take it easy.